All right, let's jump into another deep dive. Today, we're taking a look at a thinker who was, well, way ahead of his time, Baruch Spinoza.
Yeah, fascinating guy.
You sent over some excerpts from a book about him, and gotta be honest, this is some pretty dense stuff.
It is, yeah, he's not exactly light reading.
But, hey, that's why we're here. We're going to break down his key ideas,
Yeah.
about God, the human mind, and how all that connects to his surprisingly modern take on ethics. It's pretty wild, some of this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Spinoza was living in the 17th century, right? Right in the middle of the scientific revolution.
So much change happening then.
Exactly. People were really starting to question, like, all the traditional ways of thinking. And Spinoza, he went further than most. Just imagine living in a world where everything you thought you knew was being challenged.
That was Spinoza's world.
It was.
And it's not like he just questioned things. I mean, the guy came up with a whole new system of philosophy. And it was so radical, it got him excommunicated from his own Jewish community.
Oh, yeah. He was a total radical. It's kind of funny, though, like, he was a lens grinder by trade.
Really?
Yeah, but in his spare time, philosophical revolutionary.
That's wild.
It is. He was trying to, like, really understand the nature of reality, and he started with a concept that's both incredibly simple and unbelievably complex.
Let me guess. God.
You got it. God. Or, as he often called it, substance, nature, reality. He kind of used those terms, like, almost interchangeably.
Okay, now my head's already starting to spin a little bit.
Yeah.
So is he saying God is everything? Like this microphone is God.
In a way, yeah. Spinoza's big idea is called monism. It's the belief that there's only one fundamental substance, and everything, literally everything, is just a part of that substance. So yeah, your microphone, the stars, you, me, our thoughts, they're all like expressions of this one underlying reality, which Spinoza, yeah, he identified with God.
That's a pretty big jump from, the traditional idea of God as this separate being who created the universe. No wonder people called him an atheist.
Exactly. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets kind of tricky. Spinoza's philosophy, it's actually full of references to God. But this God, it's not the personal God, the interventionist God of religion.
Right.
It's more like the underlying principle of the universe, the force, you could say, that drives everything.
I remember in the book this really cool analogy about this. Something about a landscape photo.
Yes, that's it. So picture this. You've got a scientist, a devout Christian, and Spinoza. They're all looking at the same beautiful landscape photo.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going with this.
The scientists, they might focus on the geology, the processes that shaped the mountains and valleys. The Christian might see it as, God's creation, evidence of divine design. But Spinoza,
he'd see it as this manifestation of the one substance, this underlying reality that connects it all. So they're all looking at the same thing, but they're seeing it through like totally different lenses.
Exactly. And to really get Spinoza, you have to understand a few key terms he uses. First up is substance. That's the big one. The one infinite, all-encompassing reality.
Okay, so substance equals everything. Got it. What else is there?
Then you've got attributes, which are the fundamental properties of substance. We humans, we can only perceive two of these attributes, thought and extension.
So thought is like the mind, the realm of ideas, and extension is the physical world, the stuff we can see and touch.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Substance is the canvas, and thought and extension are the two primary colors that make up every image on that canvas.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm starting to get the picture here. But how does this all relate back to that landscape photo? Where does the photo itself fit into all of this?
That's where modes come in. Modes are the specific ways that the attributes of substance are expressed. So in that photo, every individual thing, like a tree, a cloud, a rock, it's a mode.
So modes are like the brushstrokes then, the things that create the details of the painting.
Precisely. They're temporary, finite expressions of the eternal, infinite substance.
Man, this is some pretty mind-bending stuff. So we've got substance, the big everything, then attributes like thought and extension, and then modes, which are the specific things we experience in the world.
You got it. And this whole framework, it's essential to understanding Spinoza's view of the mind and body, which is...
Okay, yeah, I want to hear about this.
Yeah.
Because if everything is ultimately one substance, how does that work with something as personal and seemingly separate as my own mind?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. So Spinoza, he just completely rejected this big idea of his time that the mind and body are separate substances. That was Descartes' view.
Descartes, He had some interesting ideas. But
Yeah, but Spinoza just said no, they're not two different things at all. They're two sides of the same coin.
So he's saying my mind isn't just my brain. It's more like an expression of this universal substance.
Exactly. He called this idea parallelism.
Right.
Every mental state, right, it has a corresponding physical state. And vice versa. They're just inseparable because they're both just different ways of looking at the same fundamental thing.
Okay, I guess that makes sense if you're starting from this idea that everything is part of this one substance. But wouldn't that mean then that my thoughts are just a byproduct of my physical brain? Like, am I just a walking, talking meat computer? As some people say.
Yeah, that's definitely a common misconception. And I don't think Spinoza would agree with that at all. I mean, for him, the mind isn't just the brain, right? It's part of the infinite thinking aspect of the universe, remember. Thought, it's one of the fundamental attributes of substance.
Wow. Okay, so my mind is connected to something way bigger than myself. That's a pretty wild idea.
It is. It is wild. And it leads to some really interesting questions. Like, for example, if everything is an expression of substance and thought is this fundamental attribute, then does that mean everything thinks?
Wait a minute. Are we saying that trees and rocks have thoughts? That's getting a little out there, don't you think?
Well, yeah, it is getting out there. This idea is called panpsychism. And while Spinoza, he didn't explicitly use that term, his logic seems to lean in that direction. He seemed to believe that some form of mind or consciousness might be present in everything, just to varying degrees, of course.
I need a minute to process that one, but let's bring this back down to earth for a second.
Yeah.
For our listener, why should they care about all of this really heady metaphysical stuff? How does Spinoza's philosophy actually affect how we live our lives?
Well, and that's the beauty of Spinoza. I mean, it's not just this abstract theorizing, right? It has some really practical implications, and that's where his ethics come in. Specifically, this concept he called kanatis.
Kanatis. Okay, that sounds intense. What exactly is that?
So kanatis is the inherent striving of all things to persevere in their being. It's this fundamental drive behind literally everything, from rocks to trees to us humans. Think of it like this universal survival instinct, but on a much deeper level.
So it's like everything has this built-in desire to just keep existing.
Exactly. And for humans, this striving, it's really closely tied to our emotions. Spinoza believed that joy is an increase in our power to act, while sadness is a decrease. So in other words, anything that enhances our kanatis, it brings us joy. And anything that diminishes it, that brings us sadness.
So for Spinoza, being ethical isn't about following, some external set of rules or something. It's about understanding our own nature and acting in ways that help us thrive. It's almost like an early version of evolutionary thinking.
Yeah, that's a great connection. And Spinoza's ethics, they are all about understanding our nature and acting in ways that are aligned with our kanatas. It's not about being selfish or ruthless or anything like that, though. He really believed that true freedom, true joy, it comes from understanding ourselves and understanding the world around us, so that we can make choices that lead to greater flourishing, both for ourselves and for others.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where our individual striving, it aligns with the well-being of the whole.
Exactly. It's like this incredible dance between our individual desires, right, and the needs of the community. And Spinoza believed that the key to this dance, it lies in understanding our emotions. He actually said that we should study emotions like a geometer studies shapes.
Now that is a fascinating idea.
Yeah.
What exactly did he mean by that?
So he meant that we need to understand the underlying causes and the structures of our emotions, just like a geometer understands, the angles and the lines of a triangle. If we can do that, then we can gain a certain mastery over them. We can see them coming, understand where they're coming from, and then choose how we respond to them.
So instead of just reacting emotionally, we can sort of pause, analyze the situation, and choose a course of action that's more aligned with our true nature and our long-term goals.
Precisely. And that ability to understand and manage our emotions, it's, for Spinoza, the path to achieving a state of true and lasting joy.
But he wasn't talking about happiness in the kind of superficial, fleeting sense, was he?
No, not at all. He was talking about something much deeper, a kind of joy that arises from understanding our place in the universe and experiencing the interconnectedness of all things. He actually called it the intellectual love of God, which I know that can sound a bit odd.
Yeah, especially given what we've been talking about with Spinoza's, you know, unconventional view of God. It doesn't sound like the kind of love we usually associate with religion.
Right. Yeah, you're right. It's not about worship or blind faith or anything like that. It's more about experiencing this really profound sense of unity with everything. It's that feeling you get when you suddenly grasp a really complex concept, or when you see this breathtaking view and you feel connected to something so much larger than yourself.
So it's like this deep sense of awe and wonder at the beauty and complexity of the universe.
Exactly. And Spinoza believed that this kind of joy, this intellectual love of God, it's the ultimate goal of human life. It's what we're all striving for, whether we realize it or not.
That's a pretty inspiring thought. But how do we actually achieve this intellectual love of God? Spinoza seems to be saying that it comes from cultivating clear and distinct ideas, right?
That's a key part of it, definitely. Spinoza believed that confused thinking, it leads to harmful passions. So clarifying our ideas, it's essential for emotional well-being.
Yeah.
He also emphasized understanding the causes of our emotions. The book had this great example using telemarketers.
Telemarketers. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So imagine, right, you get this annoying telemarketing call, and your initial reaction might be, anger or frustration. But if you can take a step back, right, and analyze the situation, you might realize that the telemarketer is just doing their job. They're probably not having a great day either, right? Mm-hmm. And this one phone call, it isn't worth ruining your mood over.
That's a great example. It's about reframing the situation, right? And choosing a more rational response instead of just reacting emotionally. I can see how that would apply to so many situations in life.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's about understanding the bigger picture and realizing that our initial emotional reactions, they're often based on limited information or a really narrow perspective.
So we need to cultivate this habit of questioning our own assumptions and trying to see things from a more objective standpoint.
Exactly. And as we do that, we start to gain more and more control over our emotions. We become less reactive, more deliberate in our actions.
That sounds incredibly empowering. It's like we're taking back control of our inner world instead of being tossed around by the whims of our emotions.
That's a great way to put it. And that's really, I think, at the heart of Spinoza's ethics, achieving this state of inner freedom where we're not slaves to our passions, but rather masters of our own minds and destinies.
This is all so incredibly relevant, even today. It's amazing how Spinoza, writing centuries ago, was able to articulate these ideas about emotional intelligence and self-mastery that are still so powerful, so insightful today.
I agree. His work is really a testament to the enduring power of philosophy to address these fundamental questions of human existence.
Well, our deep dive into Spinoza has definitely given us a lot to ponder. But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on one last thing.
Yeah.
If everything is part of this one substance, right? Does that mean we're all just puppets, just dancing to the tune of some cosmic script? Is there any room for free will in Spinoza's philosophy?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. That's a question that's sparked a lot of debate over the centuries.
I bet.
Spinoza himself argued that true freedom, it doesn't come from like this magical ability to act, independently of the laws of nature. Instead, he believed that freedom, it comes from understanding those laws, understanding the causes that determine our actions and our thoughts.
So it's like saying the more we understand about how the universe works, the more freedom we have. That seems kind of counterintuitive.
It does, yeah, it does at first. But think about it this way, right? If you're walking through a forest and you come to this raging river, you have no choice but to stop, right?
Right.
But if you know how to build a bridge, suddenly you have the freedom to cross. Knowledge, in a way, it expands our range of possibilities.
That's a great analogy. So instead of being limited by our ignorance, we can actually gain freedom by understanding the causes that shape our lives.
Exactly. And that understanding, it begins with recognizing that we're not separate from the rest of nature. Yeah. We're all part of this one interconnected web, and our actions, they have consequences. They ripple outward. They affect everything around us.
So Spinoza's philosophy is kind of a call to take responsibility for our actions, to act in ways that are aligned with the well-being of the whole.
I think that's a great way to put it. He believed that understanding our place in the universe and acting in accordance with nature, it leads to greater freedom, greater joy, and just a deep sense of peace.
This has been an incredible journey. We've covered so much ground. I mean, from Spinoza's radical concept of God to his ideas about the mind-body connection, ethics, even the eternal nature of the soul. Is there anything else you think our listeners should take away from our deep dive into Spinoza?
I think the biggest takeaway is that Spinoza, he challenges us to think differently. He encourages us to question our assumptions, to look beyond our limited perspectives, and to see the world, really see the world with fresh eyes. His philosophy is this powerful reminder that we're all connected, that our actions matter, and that true freedom, it comes from understanding and embracing our place in the grand scheme of things.
That's a beautiful way to sum it up. Spinoza's work is demanding, it's challenging, and sometimes even a little mind-bending. Mm-hmm. But it's also incredibly rewarding. He offers us a way to see the world that is both intellectually rigorous and deeply spiritual. Yeah. A way to live that is both grounded in reason and filled with a sense of wonder and awe.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, dear listener, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of Baruch Spinoza. We hope you've enjoyed this exploration as much as we have.
And if you're feeling inspired to learn more, we encourage you to pick up Spinoza's works and see what insights you discover for yourself. There's a whole universe of knowledge out there just waiting to be explored.
Thank you for joining us on this intellectual adventure. We'll see you next time on the deep dive.